Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Mike Honcho. How you doing today, Mike?
Doing good, and kind of enjoying this little rainy weather. I kind of like it. A little rainy helps you relax after a long day.
Yeah, very much so. Makes me tired a little bit, honestly. But let's talk about what happened Saturday, Mike, real quick here before we get into the Troy game here. The Cajuns looked really sluggish coming out in the first half here. Basically, anything that could have went wrong there for the Cajuns happened in that game there. So, what you think about what happened there?
Oh, the first half was boring. If you could have stayed home, for the first half of the game, you'd have been much better off as a fan. The first half was just very sluggish. The defense couldn't stop anybody. The offense couldn't get anything going. Kenny was the only highlight for the whole half, is what we joked about. And a few of our players losing their shoes multiple times during the first half of the game. It was not a pretty game in the first half. The second half we came alive, and unfortunately, I think it came from the injury of starting quarterback Ben Woolridge. After his injury, we pretty much started coming alive and actually clicking. And I don't know why that was the case when Ben was, Ben was a really good quarterback, and seeing him go down kind of hurt because I felt bad. He hasn't played a full year with us yet because of injury, and to see him go out, and from what I'm hearing, I don't know if it's official. It's a broken collarbone, which means he's pretty much done for with the Cajuns. And seeing him go out, kind of sad. And Chandler Fields though came in and had a good game and sparked the offense, and defense didn't allow any points in the second half. And I think if it wasn't for bad time management, I think we actually could have probably came back and won this game.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there with the time management part there. There was times like me and you were saying the same thing. We were in the stands like why are we doing this at this time here? We have to get up to go because we got to burn up. We got to make sure this clock doesn't get burned out because you have to make sure you get the possession to get in the position to do so. Um, I do think what ended up killing our chances toward the end of the game was the fact that we went for field goals in the red zone. And, whenever you get into that red zone, you start just knocking down field goals and stuff. And it takes you a lot longer to build up the lead other than going for touchdowns. You like what? I think we went down there 4 times and we got, I think, what, 6 to 9 points or something like that. There was a touchdown catch that was dropped in the end zone. I mean, we were right there watching it. We heard it hit him in the chest. I'm trying to remember who it was. Like
Uh,
catching the
I
ball.
couldn't remember, but yeah,
Uh,
you can hear the impact of the ball hitting him in the chest, and at that point, you're a college D1 professional football player. That should have been no excuse. Because defender didn't even do anything about it. It was all the wide receiver dropping the ball in the end zone.
like stuff like that gets magnified in the games. Little tiny things like that here. If you score in a game like that, you go down there 4 different times, okay, and you score one time out of those four, and you get into a field goal game or a 2 point game like we were at the end of that game when the 2 point conversion fails. You don't even need a 2 point conversion at that point because a touchdown wins you the game, a field goal wins you the game at that point. Even uh, little things like that add up after a while. As bad as the first half was, we did show a lot of fight and we did manage to pull back in it there, but just tiny things get magnified, and now we're kind of in an interesting situation here, putting more drama into the season that we didn't really need to have, honestly, because now South Alabama's sitting there, that could very well take the West away from the Cajuns if it came down to being in that situation there. But I do like what I saw the Cajuns. They came out the second half and they were ready to play some football, but they were a half too late when it came down to do that there. But I do like the adjustments that Des and them were able to do. Look like we kept our shoes on in the second half a little bit better than we did in the first half. But as far as that goes, I think that the Cajuns, we could say it. I said it last week when I was with Jalen, and I said I didn't think the Cajuns were going to make the playoff. I was really hoping against it, but that playoff dream is killed basically by the result on Saturday. So we can pipe down the playoff talk here because we need a lot of things to go our way anyway to get into that thing, and it was a very huge mountain to climb. But it is fun to talk about to be in that situation there. But look, let's go focus on winning a Sun Belt championship and get. But first, before we get to the Sun Belt championship, we got to get to the Sun Belt championship game before we can even think about going deeper in there. But let's look at this here. So the Cajuns here are in a very interesting position. If you want to look at it in terms of the Sun Belt race here, we got you got you have South Alabama right there in the West that's tied with Arkansas State and a couple other teams here. Um, so right now, Marshall leading the way in the East. You got Arkansas State, Texas State, and South Alabama. That three-way tie for second here. So I'm gonna share this screen so our viewers can look at this here, and so y'all can see what I'm talking about here. Give me a second here. There's a disabled camera. Let's see. Share screen. They hit things around on this website, so I'm kind of getting used to navigating it. So let's share this here real quick. All right, got the screen pulled up. It's all good. So look at this West Division here real quick. Cajuns are 5-1, leading the way. They have a very good chance to host this Sun Belt championship game because overall record is better than Marshall. So we need to win our next two games against Troy and UOM to secure home field advantage. That will put us at 10-2 on the year. Which applause to the Cajuns though. They have exceeded expectations this year compared to what we thought coming in here. Me and Jalen did do the preview of the season, and we both said they had a very experienced squad that was very well rounded with experience that they should do very well. We thought 8-9 wins was about what the Cajuns were going to do, and they're kind of right there, but they're doing a little bit better than we thought they would. Texas State was the premier favorite in the West, and they are not. They have to. Arkansas State and Texas State have to win out for them to get to the West title game, and Cajun dropped both games for them to get in there. South Alabama, though, is the one I'm more concerned about. So, with them being there, I think they play Southern Miss next here, and that's going to get them another win, probably. If you look at there at Southern Miss is in a mess. Texas State is the one we're going to look out for here with South Alabama because that's going to be the game here, and I don't like going to UOM in the last week of a season when a team that just would love to just destroy our chance at winning a Sun Belt championship. Because if we lose either one of these two games here, we're going to be in a bad spot because of it. If we beat Troy and we lose to UOM, and if South Alabama wins both their games and win out, they're going to the Sun Belt championship game because they got the head-to-head over the Cajuns. What you think about the Sun Belt, Mike?
Nah, I don't like it. I was really hoping the Cajuns could pull it off, and I kind of figured the playoffs was kind of a little bit out of reach. Tulane and Army both playing an American Conference championship game. Um, Kind of put that to silence because Tulane has the overall against UL. They beat us early in the year, and Army's undefeated still, and they play Notre Dame this week. So if they were to beat Notre Dame, it's kind of hard to not put them higher than us. And Boise State's just they were getting scared by San Jose State, but ended up pulling away. So I wasn't too concerned about the playoffs, but I was expecting to lock up the Sun Belt this week. Wouldn't have to worry about it because the last two games scared me. Um, and I had a lot more confidence, honestly, that we could beat South Alabama, and I'd be worried that we would lose one of the last two games because of who it is that we're playing against. And now we actually got to worry about it. Now we're sitting back and okay, are we going to make it to the Summit Championship game? That last game of the week of the year, it's going to be rough. Best we can hope for is that UL beats Troy and South Alabama can lose to either Southern Miss or uh, Texas State, and Arkansas State maybe drop a game. And we just need a few things to go our way. But if Cajuns just win, then they don't have to worry about it. So I think Cajuns need to just worry about winning.
take it one game at a time, as they usually say here. But just Marshall, you got James Madison. It's like, who would you rather play out of those two, and Georgia Southern as well? Um, it's gonna be a fun one to find out who wins that East right there. Marshall, they only have one loss in conference, and look at that last game at James Madison. That's gonna be your East right there. If they handle business at Old Dominion, that's if they handle business. You got James Madison sitting there, 4-2. They beat App State, then that they got a home game for the Sunbelt East Championship right there. So that East is definitely still up for grabs. A lot more than the West is, I would say. But the West isn't like a skip through some daisies or whatever. It's definitely going to be a fight to the end here because with Georgia Southern, they have a win against Marshall. So if they can, and James Madison, so they got the wins over both these teams here. So if they can, if one of them gets a loss here, they either need Marshall or James Madison to, well, they need Marshall to lose this week more than anything. Yeah, or have Marshall like this thing could be a crazy loon in the East because if Marshall wins out, they'll be 7-1 in conference play and they'll get the to the title game. But if they lose to James Madison, they'll have two losses. If James Madison wins out, they'll have two losses. Georgia Southern will have two losses. Then Georgia Southern becomes your East champion. If they have to win out though, Georgia Southern though too. So none of this stuff is locked up. We still got a lot of football technically to be played here. 8 quarters we're gonna know a lot more once those 8 quarters are pulled up for sure and how everything's gonna go here. The West is a little bit more not as chaotic, I would say. If the Cajuns went out, home field advantage, that kind of thing there. They did announce the game time for ULM versus the Cajuns. It's gonna be 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPNU, so you can watch that game there. That will be a very interesting one to see for sure. So look, bringing us back on camera here. Let me see here. I think this is. I already did this. Let me see. I got to pull this back up here. Um, I'm still kind of learning this new site and stuff here. Oh, there it is. There's the button. They move stuff around, so I'm kind of like trying to play director on air, basically. So, uh, but anyway, look, it's gonna be a tough game, regardless of these next two games for the Cajuns. No matter how we figure out how this is gonna go and stuff here, but Mike, any predictions against Troy for the Cajuns? What you think about these two teams lining up against each other?
Well, so Troy, Troy pretty handily beat us last year. Don't get me wrong, it's a completely different team. Um, New head coach, pretty much new players all the way around. Um, Troy was very, very bad for the whole year, pretty much. And they came through, and they beat Georgia Southern last weekend. I told Chief if the Cajuns could have beat South Alabama, it was looking really good that we get to host because Georgia Southern was number one coming into last week in the East. And when Troy beat them, I was like, well, now this actually gets scary because Troy's going to be a contender, and UL now on their backup quarterback, which Chandler Fields looks pretty good, and he looks like he really could step up and help us. Um, Kind of got a little now worried because now it's must win. There's no room for error for the Cajuns, and that's what scares me. Is everything's going to have to be perfect.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one again. With it being absolutely perfect for the Cajuns, they're gonna have to find a way to. It's gonna be an interesting year. We assume that year the offensive ranking between the team. Troy's 95th in the country on offense, 80th rushing, 83rd passing. Not very good offensive numbers for Troy at all. Defensively, 88th against the run and 54th against the pass, which leans to an advantage for the Cajuns because we love to run the football and our offensive line should be able to dominate them up front there. So if you're looking at what, like I said, run defense for the Cajuns is the weak point of this Cajun defense here, but overall 40th. pretty good balance wise, rushing 37th and passing 29th here. So we keep track of these numbers here as they keep going along through the rest of the season here. So just looking at this game here, I think the Cajuns, I think rely on the run game. Try to limit Troy's offense being out there on the field. I think if you establish a running game and you're able to do that there, you will be in a very good situation to not give Troy a chance to get back in this game and just do what you got to win the battle up front on the line and just do what you got to do. I think they'll be in a very good spot here, and I think the Cajuns will be in a good spot here when you get to the Sun Belt Championship game, basically. So I'm thinking that Cajuns are in a good spot. Just win. That's the one thing that needs to be preached. Do your job, do your role, win the game. Do whatever you can to win that football game there. That's what needs to be said there. So let's go through these Sun Belt games here. We are now officially in week 13, and man, Mike, this football season has gone through so fast this year. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast all this kind of went down.
Oh yeah, it's just flying by.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, first game on this list here, Mike. Let's see. Why is this thing not okay? There it is. We put up Sun Belt Conference games here. Any big game you're looking forward to, Mike, this week?
I mean, not really. I guess I'm just so hyper focused on the Cajuns now. Because I said it's just everything has to be perfect. I felt like they had a good chance with everything Saturday. The crowd, the little that showed up, unfortunately, was very energetic. The atmosphere was amazing. The pregame stuff was very fun, and kudos to the Cajuns for for getting that cool environment set up. And I can't wait to have a nice stadium, and they can try this out again next year.
I like
So
I like the light show. That was
I
a
was
really
really
cool thing
hoping
that year.
that would get the Cajuns pumped up and ready to go, and it just I mean it felt the energy in the building was absolutely drained. Within the first quarter, it felt like that just so I say all that I'm be focused on the Cajuns. I'll be watching some games in the East. I'm not too worried about South Alabama this week. They should be able to beat Southern Miss. We got to see. Hopefully, Arkansas State can maybe drop a game. We'll have to see. But
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. So the first game on the list here, we didn't pick the Cajun and Troy game yet, but we'll save that for our picks later on, obviously. So James Madison is going on the road to Boone, North Carolina. We know it's very tough to win there in Boone versus App State. App State is 7-point underdogs. What you thinking, Mike?
I'm going to go with James Madison. App State's not the same App State of years past, but they're kind of getting their footing back. They're not as bad as they started off, but I think James Madison does win it. I do see it being a close game, though.
Yeah, I think Vegas is a little bit too high. I think a field goal game would be
It would be.
more in line with that there. So give me James Madison to beat App State. I think they will get the job done on the road in Boone, North Carolina. That is a 1:30 matchup there. Then you got UL Monroe taking on Arkansas State, or Monroe, as we like to call him around the fishbowl. So Arkansas State, they're fighting for Sunbelt West title potentially. It could end this week for them if they don't win this game, or if the Cajuns win, they'll basically be knocked out of it because they couldn't do anything because of the head-to-head victory the Cajuns have over them. I got Arkansas State winning this game. They're favored by 3 points. I think they'll have a lot to prove in Jonesboro this week. What you thinking, Mike?
I think Arkansas State wins this one. They're one of the surprise teams this year. I think they could pull it off against Monroe. It'll be a closer game too, but I think Arkansas State could pull it off.
All right, South Alabama taking on Southern Miss here in Hattiesburg here. Southern Miss is underdog by 22 and a half points, which I think is being very disingenuous to Southern Miss. I think they might have something to say about that there. I think South Alabama will win this one though, but I don't want to go 22 and a half. I say 14-point win for South Alabama. What you thinking, Mike?
I think South Alabama wins this one, and actually, I think I agree with the 22 points. South Alabama's a really good
Okay.
team, and I think they could put the points up against them. Southern Miss is still trying to find their feet. I think South Alabama can win this one, especially coming off the big win against UL.
I think that I still will say the Cajuns are the better team though. I will say that. I think the Cajuns are a better football team than South Alabama this year, even though the results say different. But the results are what the results are. Georgia Southern versus Coastal Carolina, 2.5 point favorites as Coastal Carolina in Conway. Oh man, this one could throw a curveball in the East for sure here if Coastal was able to pull off this win. And I'm gonna go with Georgia Southern because I think they know what they have to do. They got their backs against the wall and they need a win. What you thinking, Mike?
I'm going with Coastal. I think Coastal is going to. They're one of the teams that we kind of don't talk about a lot this year because other teams have stepped up, but Coastal still kind of hanging in there, and I got to go with Coastal.
Troy going the road to Louisiana at Cajun Field in Lafayette. Uh, or you know what? Let me do the northern pronunciation of Lafayette, which I can't stand, by the way. But I got the Cajuns winning this one. I think 10.5. I think the Cajuns are going to come out, and I think they're going to be fired up because they know they have to win to get in there, and I think that's what they're going to have to do here. I think in a 14-point win for the Cajuns, I think they'll beat what Vegas has going so far, or what they have right now. What you thinking, Mike?
I got the Cajuns winning, but I got the Cajuns. Got the Cajuns winning by 7.
Okay. Georgia
I,
State. Okay, what? Go ahead.
no, I feel like the Cajun again. Chandler Fields came in and stepped up. A lot's to be unknown yet. Because now the way you practice this week is going to be completely different than the way you were practicing. So I'm just kind of I'm worried. Troy's coming off a big win. Cajuns coming off of a big loss. I think it's going to be just a tight game. And Troy's always been a team that's had UL's number, so it's kind of scary. That's why I feel like it's going to be a
Right.
pretty close game.
I think what they need to do at Chandler is roll him out the pocket. I think Chandler is a better on the run thrower than Woodridge is. I think Woodridge does better in the pocket. But if they can do some bootleg rollouts with Chandler Fields, I think they would do wonders for them. You know, getting him out of the pocket and stuff like that. I think he's pretty good at throwing on the run, from what I noticed. Georgia State taking on Texas State. I got Texas State winning this one. Georgia State is not very good this year, and Texas State's 20-point favorites here. But man, if I was a bet man, throw a dollar on Georgia State and see what happens. What you thinking, Mike?
I got Texas State winning this one. I think they are the better team. Georgia State really surprised me. I thought they would have been much better, but give me Texas State.
Marshall going on the road to Old Dominion. Now, this one I'm intrigued by, and Old Dominion's had a very interesting year, to say the least. Here, they've had some great moments, but then they had some where they just kind of fell flat at times during the year. 3-3 in conference because when you start, it has some close losses at the beginning of the year, and then because going against Virginia Tech, close loss against South Carolina, close loss to East Carolina. Then they strung together a 3-game win streak that included Georgia State, Texas State, and Georgia Southern. So, and then they lost the last two. So, and they haven't been like blowout losses either. App State was an 8-point loss. James Madison a 3-point loss. So you're kind of wondering, okay, how will this go out for us here? But I'm gonna call. They got them as favorites at 2-point favorites here. I'm gonna go with Old Dominion. I think they'll pull off an upset against. Well, not really an upset, but like I think they'll beat Marshall this week. What you thinking, Mike?
I got Marshall. Marshall's riding a huge wave. Old Dominion has pulled off a lot of good wins, and they had a lot of good close games. I think they were expected to finish towards the bottom of the Sun Belt, and here they are. having a pretty decent year. But I think Marshall continues their momentum.
Yeah, we'll see how well it all goes out this game. I'm kind of curious to see what happens as we go deeper into this football season. Who's going to be playing the champions? We don't know. All right. We got men basketball. They're going to play Rice next week. Hopefully, the Cajuns can find their role guys and stuff. And an embarrassing loss against Houston there. Not really much was going on with the Cajuns. Cajuns shot poorly most of that game. What you thought about that game, Mike?
They were hanging in there at first. They were actually winning for a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, look at that!" I didn't expect the Canes to win because Houston's just a really good team. But um, I went to bed, woke up, and saw the was it 45-point loss. Um, I I couldn't believe, you the Cajuns aren't never a bad team, but they've been pretty average, and to see them get blown out, like we were almost a Division II team, looked pretty bad. So hopefully they can find their footing and turn it around against the other team from Houston.
Yeah. So I think Cajuns win against Rice. What you thinking?
I think they could pull off the win. I think it's gonna be a close game, but there's still a lot to find out about the Cajuns. They dropped the first game of the year against Kent State. They beat UT Dallas, which wasn't, that big of a surprise, and then they dropped a big one to Houston. So Cajuns are still trying to figure out who they are. So I think they can do it against Rice, but it's gonna be a close game.
Yeah, every team's different. Got to find what roles they play and everything else. Like who's going to be a big man down low, who's going to be your 3-point shooter. Those things take time, and when we get to January, you should know who your guys are at that point there. So because that's when you start conference play, and the Sun Belt's a one bid league anyway. You're not going to get 3 or 4 teams from the Sun Belt in the NCAA tournament anyway. So I mean, I've seen some comments, and I'm just like the reserve judgment. Let's wait for the conference before I say, yeah, bad, because you have to compare yourself to your peers basically, and the Sun Belt is your peer institutions that you deal with. So we'll see what happens with that there. So and we can't forget about UL women's basketball. What you thought about them so far this year, Mike?
They're doing pretty good. They also dropped the first game against Northern Illinois. It was a very close game. Then they beat. Oh, I can't remember who they beat recently. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. But they play Mobile this week. I don't think they're gonna have a problem with them. I don't see why the Cajuns would lose that game. So
Yeah,
uh,
Northern Illinois, a close loss to them. 2-point loss. Loyola, they beat them. I think they'll beat
yeah,
Mobile too. They got Nichols on Friday at 6 o'clock at home. They got Mobile tomorrow at 5. So it's gonna be an interesting one here. So we got some Cajun basketball going on tomorrow. So it'll be fun to see here. Then you got New Orleans next week. Cajun should take these next 2 games this week. I'm pretty confident in that. What you thinking, Mike?
yeah. I think they'll be pretty. I think it should be an easy week for them.
Yeah. So anything you want to say before we go off the air here, Mike?
No, just go out support the Cajuns. Be there for the football team. They're still a good team. I know I give them a lot of hell, and especially if you ever see me at a football game, I give the team a lot of hell. But they're doing really well. I think the only thing they messed up on was poor gameplay in the first half. Kudos to the coaching staff and the players for coming out in the second half and just pretty much dominated South Alabama in the second half. Just a little too late. And like I said, the poor clock management. I felt like if we had left more time, that missed 2-point conversion wouldn't have hurt us as bad. But we had no time left, so we had to do an onside kick, and those rarely work out. So I just wish the time management was a little bit better towards the end, but overall they still had a good game. Just they weren't the better team that day. I know you said you think we're the better team, but I'm all about results, and if you lose, you know, like like a
And
good
that's
old
fair.
Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, South Alabama's the man in the West. Cajuns can't beat them, so they're the man.
Yeah, I think if the execution came out flat in that game, and that was something that we're gonna have to hopefully fixed by the time we go against Troy on Saturday there. But the big game that I'm kind of worried about is the East and how that's going to solve themselves, and see if Southern Miss can maybe pull off an upset against South Alabama. That would be the best birthday or Christmas gift that the Cajuns could actually get. Basically, is for a upset win from Southern Miss, because at that point you're basically locked in the West at that point there. So just a little bit of help there, and the Cajuns had a mulligan there. So basically with that there, I think the Cajuns, if they win, kudos to them, and we'll lock up the West and prepare for a Sun Belt championship game. So thank y'all for tuning in here to the Fishbowl Radio. Hope you have a great and wonderful night. We're going to see y'all here next week here on Monday. Here we'll do our LSU podcast later on this week here, where me and Juicy talk about LSU Tigers. And is Brian Kelly's seat getting hot? We're going to talk about that here on the Fishbowl Radio later on this week. So thank y'all for tuning in. I hope you have a great and wonderful night. See you here.